Hi, I'm Ted Haftegabber, founder and producer of Live Talks Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us. Since we started over a decade ago, we have brought you hundreds of conversations with storytellers, writers, actors, musicians, humorists, chefs, and thought leaders in business and science. You can watch and hear most of these in our YouTube channel and our podcast. For details, visit livetalksla.org. And now, here's the show you've tuned in to see.
Hi.
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 Here we are.
Look, we're together.
Hi.
Look, we're together.
This is really exciting. This is very...
We haven't seen each other in a minute.
There's
been
been
a while.
pandemic.
Yeah, there's a pandemic. That happened.
You wrote a book.
I did during the pandemic because
This time,
for
you.
correct.
This time for me.
And I wrote it because there was nothing else to do. Do you know? Because the pandemic happened, and I was so depressed, like all of us, I'm sure, so sad, and so triggered. I was also, because I'm 60, I just turned 60 2 weeks ago. And, oh, bless your hearts. Thank you. I love when people applaud that. Oh, she's still alive. Good for her. Nice work. But I turned 60, and something sort of shifted for me. And this is my second viral plague that I've lived through. The first happened in the 1980s and 1990s, where I lost most all of my friends, as I know you have as well. Many of us in the arts and in other professions, of course, lost many people. So this is the second time for me. And so when it happened, it really shook me. And I remember I was sitting at my computer, and my wife, who I met in 1976, we've been together for 46 years now, she said, I know, it's crazy, isn't it? And she's the greatest.
Like, that actually deserves applause.
Does it?
Yeah.
Does it?
Anybody can be 60 years old, but nobody can stay together for 46
really?
years.
Is that right? I don't feel like we did anything, though. I feel like we just sort of hung out and ate popcorn. I don't know that it deserves applause. But she's the greatest. She's at home because she's tired. But anyway, she said, I was very sad, and she said, why don't you write your book? And I went, what? She said, that book you've been talking about. Why don't you write your book? And I went, oh, don't be ridiculous. I'm not going to write. Nobody's going to read a. What are you talking about? She said, you write on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and write your damn book.
Don't forget the TikTok where
And
I
the
follow
TikTok.
you.
I love the TikTok.
Oh,
I'm obsessed. Everybody on the TikTok is young enough to be my grandchild, by the way.
But they're really trans out there on the TikTok. They're
Super
teaching me
trans.
how to be.
They're super trans.
It was there that I learned that I was on the butch lesbian to non-binary to, twink pipeline.
Was it?
That's where I've landed. I've turned out I'm a twink all this
Twink
time.
pipeline. Write that down. Twink pipeline. Is that right? Is that
Yes,
true?
That's what happened to me.
TikTok is the thing that.
Well, the young people,
Yeah.
they understand.
The young, yeah. Yeah, they get it.
They do get it.
They really do.
Yeah.
And they don't have any tolerance for our bullshit. They just don't care. Like, if you're hiding, they'll see it. They see right through you, these young children.
Yes. And also, I think before TikTok, I used to think, I better figure it all out and teach the world.
Uh-huh.
And then I got on TikTok, and I was like, holy shit.
You don't know anything.
We know nothing.
No.
They know a whole language.
Yes.
They get all, they're so post-pronouns.
That's right.
They make pronouns seem dumb.
They're stupid. And they're stupid. And they're a waste of time. And they don't care.
They don't care,
They
yeah.
they don't even want to have the conversation.
Yeah.
We want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? Do you know? Like, we want to, why are you? And they just would rather do their game thing. I don't even know what anything's called anymore. I'm still playing Atari. Like, I don't know what anything's called.
Are you playing Wordle is the question.
I'm playing Wordle. That's what I'm doing. No, my wife plays
Who
the
here
Wordle.
plays Wordle?
Nobody plays.
Oh, everybody. No, we're all obsessed together.
I don't know what that is. I know it's an online. Is it an online thing?
It's online.
Is
It's
it on the
www.
World Wide Web.
Dot.
No. I don't know. Literally. But Chrisanne plays those games. She
Okay,
loves
that's
those,
good.
But I don't know what
Alexandra Billings, I
Yes.
just want to let the world know that we have been at this hustle together for so long.
Holy
Let's
moly.
take this crowd and the crowd watching at home back to the streets of Chicago in the 80s, late
the
80s, early 90s.
Yes, honey.
We were hoofing.
Yes, Lord. You were doing a show, you and your sibling Faith Soloway, they were doing a show. Because you know this, I won't talk to you. They were doing a show.
You tell them.
I am going to. They were doing a show in
Listen
Chicago
up.
called Co-ed Prison Sluts.
And down the street,
Emmy Award-winning, Golden Globe-winning human being over here.
And down the street, you were performing in a show called Cannibal Cheerleaders on Crack. We were
That deserves applause, bitches. That deserves applause.
It's like Saturday at midnight. Are you going to see co-ed prison sluts or Cannibal Cheerleaders on Crack? And we were literally down the street from each other.
Insane. And another theater company called the Factory Theater was running. Late night theater in Chicago was something else, kids. You all missed a great party. And they were doing, by Sean Abley, a show called Bitches, which was all men in drag as murdering cheerleaders. That was Chicago late night theater.
And then there was Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind, and there was Manson the musical, and we kind of came up.
Manson the musical.
And we were really like the queer, feminist, adjacent people to the white cis men, also known as the chismales, the white cis men that you now currently recognize as the comedy mafia. We were around and about every last one of them, flitting about, queer and invisible.
And they didn't know what to do with us.
They didn't even.
We made them very nervous.
Yes.
And we had friends, Rose Abdou, Jackie Hoffman, Steve Carell, Stephen Colbert, although that group of humans was at Second City, which was like the hyper white, testosterone-filled, a comedy that was hit you over the head with male and female comedy. And I was very, very, and still am, very, very good friends with Jimmy Doyle, Rose, and Jackie Hoffman. Very good friends of mine. And they would take me to see their shows. And I was sitting, and I loved them. I thought they were hilarious. My trans revolutionary friends were like, "How can you go? What's the matter with you?" And they would be very angry. But I'm like, it's funny. Anyway, I would go see those shows and go backstage and talk to these amazing artists, and there were times when they couldn't stand next to me. They didn't know how to
They
walk.
would just walk away.
No, they didn't know what to do. They would be like, "Hello, it's nice to meet you." Like,
Yes.
just because they were so nervous.
There was no consciousness.
They were so upset. What I was.
Well, I
just
still find actually that white cis men can't actually stand
No, they
anywhere
can't
near
stand.
me without trying to figure out.
You make them very nervous because you're successful. You have the, the American ideal of success, and all of that, and you don't fit in the container that makes sense to them.
Right.
It's very upsetting to them.
It's very upsetting.
Yep. They don't like you to walk into meetings. They
sure don't.
Nope.
No, it's hard work.
Yeah.
Maybe we should talk a little bit about that. I'm curious about being trans in Hollywood, understanding that for the, let's call it, white supremacist, cis-normative POV, sometimes we have to kind of allow ourselves to be tokens, wag our tails to make people feel comfortable even when we don't want to be there. Thoughts?
And we also have to take up less space and know when to take up more space. It's a juggling act. It's navigation. And the reason that we have to do that, and I say this to young actors all the time, the reason we have to do that is in order to change the rules of the game, you have to get in the game. If you're not in the room, the rules aren't going to change. So you have to allow yourself and tell yourself, power is not about loudness. Revolution is not about voices that must be heard over a crowd. Revolution is about accumulation, navigation, and the idea of divine righteousness. That is revolution. And in order for us to do that, any marginalized human being, in order for anyone to succeed, you must allow yourself knowledge and the ability to gain that knowledge of the game. What is the game you want to play? What is the game you want to conquer? What is the land you want to take over? Because that's what's happening. That's why everyone's so nervous. That's why all of these bills, there's over 200, by the way, over 200 anti-LGBT bills in our country sitting on desks that will be signed, make no mistake. They will be signed. This war, this cultural war, we're losing. We're losing. Now, the good news is we're going to win, but that's what we're counting on, which is why we're not fighting. We keep sitting back and going, well, you know, humanity. Well, you know, common sense. Well, facts and figures. That doesn't mean anything. Because these white, cis, patriarchal humans know the game. They know the game because they invented the game. So you see, the rules make perfect sense to them. So we can stand outside and bang on the windows all we want and say, you're unfair, you're unfair, you're unfair. No one cares. They've never cared. It doesn't matter. We have to get in the room. And in order to do that, we have to have information.
And we have to play nice. And
Right.
we can't be as angry as we are.
Right.
I mean, you know, for me over the past year and watching what happened with Dave Chappelle and feeling, you know, really brokenhearted that a lot of my friends weren't standing up for my right to receive health care, my right to be considered a human being. It was kind of shocking, actually, how few people. I feel like when I look at the world, I see Chase Strangio out there raising the alarm bells and going, hey, everybody, it's really bad. Like, it's really bad. And I see you and a few other people. But, you know, I've been looking into sort of, you know, what's happening behind the scenes. And the cis people and companies and brands just aren't coming out in support of trans people.
Mm-hmm. Why should they? Why should they? There's no reason for them to. They gain nothing. There's absolutely no reason for them to.
Because you feel like more people are transphobic than not, and so why would a big brand like Netflix want to alienate?
They're doing fine. Even if their stocks take a dive, they will survive. They're doing fine. They don't need us. They don't need us because we don't exist, you see. And what I mean by that is they're very clever, these humans. They always have been. They're not saying you don't have any rights. They're not saying that. What they're saying is you are not a community. There's no such thing as transgender. There's male and there's female. You just need to stop it. Stop it. Stop dressing like that. Stop talking like that. Stop looking like that. Stop acting like that. Stop walking like that. Stop sounding like that. Stop loving those people. Stop having sex with those people. Stop. And you can stop because I did.
Yes.
Right? I have desires and want. They'll tell you that. And needs. I have those. I just don't act on them.
Yes.
And if I can do it, you can do it.
Yes. In fact, I'm reading this book by, her name is Olivia Lang, and she wrote this book that really goes back to Magnus Hirschfeld, Berlin, and talks about the binary and binary repressed thinking as a fertile site for fascism.
Mm-hmm.
So all the men who feel that they earned that word men are just the most fertile soldiers for a fascist message. And you and I both know that when you go from the binary to, when you go from 2 to 3, you go to infinity. You go to allowing and tolerance and love. And what are we asking? That maybe that bodies and gender are not 100% correlated, maybe only correlated, you know, I don't know, 85% of the time? Like, that's the only thing we're saying.
Yes.
And yet it's so frightening.
Because it shakes the very foundation of what they know, the very foundation of what they understand. It shakes the ground beneath their feet. That's why they're holding on tightly. And one of the things they can hold on to and change, because remember, they made up the rules, it's their game, are laws. That's how they get to us. It's always how they've gotten to. You know, I say this all the time. I was on the Phil Donahue show. You remember him, Phil Donahue? You remember Phil? God bless him. Is he here? Anyway, I was on the Phil Donahue show, and a woman in the back got up and asked, "What bathroom do you use?" This was 1984. I have been answering that question since 1984. It was much more entertaining when I was on cocaine, but I was still answering that question. And it's let me just be really clear. It's the same people. It's the same people believing the same thing, asking the same questions of the same community. The difference is now we've gotten louder because of Transparent, because of Pose. But here's the thing. Transparent's gone. Pose is gone. Name me two television shows on streaming or network anywhere that star, not supporting, but star a transgender human. They don't exist. So we're not here. They're right. We don't exist. They're right. And they know it. That's why they're winning.
Have you ever thought about going into politics?
No. People ask me that. I don't want to do that.
I mean, honestly, you're such an inspiring speaker.
I love
so
you for
motivating.
that. But
minister maybe, or
darling.
reverend of some sort.
A minister. I was so frightened to walk into a temple. It scared me. I thought that thing's going to catch
rabbi?
on fire.
No.
I feel
You are so you embody the divine feminine so naturally, and when you speak, it has this way of changing people.
I'm very grateful for that. I feel like I am called to do certain things, and what I've learned to do in my life is listen very closely, but I feel like it's moment to moment with me, because we were just talking, Joey and I were talking in the hallway, and I said, now, I used to do things to further my career or make more money, or now I do things because they bring me joy.
Mm-hmm. Or change the world. Remember when the Trump campaign asked you to speak?
Remember when the Trump campaign asked me to speak?
Remember that?
Yeah, and you literally bit my head off.
Sorry. Because I thought they were going to use you.
They were like, no. And I went, but what if they... No. But I could hit... No. Yeah, they asked me.
Yeah.
I still feel like...
We all think we can save people, don't we?
I do. And I know yeah,
I
that's
think that
terrible.
too. I'm like, oh, if I could just talk to Dave Chappelle and be like, we have friends in common, like Sarah Silverman, like, I'm a human, my gender is X. Do you not want me to be able to get a checkup at the doctor's office?
You know what? If you have that conversation, I'll bet you what he would say, because he knows you, is, and you have friends in common. Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. Of course I do. I'm an American, you're an American. Just don't do that. I think that's what he would say.
Don't what, dress?
Yeah, yes, don't do that.
Not according to...
No, don't do that. Stop doing it.
I put your X on your... Go
Stop
ahead,
doing
your
that.
X.
Don't do the X. It's silly. Is what he would say to you.
Yeah.
Because if you ask them a direct question, don't you think I deserve equal rights? They will say, I have these people in my family. My family, I come from a literal litter of conservative Republicans. Like a box full of conservative Republican puppies. They're just like, Trump, 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 Trump. They love him. They think he's great. They think he's terrific. No, it's adorable, because here's the thing. And and my cousin, who's one of my dearest friends, I ask her all the time, now explain to me why you feel Trump is, because they believe he's chosen by God. That's not an exaggeration. That's a fact. And they will say that to you. He's chosen by God. And I think, all right, okay, let's pretend that's true for a second. Okay. Let's just all...
If we must.
Well, let's use our imaginations and all pretend that's true. And let's say the Almighty, who's an all-knowing, all-seeing entity that has created universes, probably more than we can conceive. Right. imperfect, perfect, right? All different kinds of experiences, created them out of just dreams. I'd like that over there. I'd like that over there. This kind of human who literally made everything we can see and can't see, everything we know and don't know, this being made Donald Trump, the chosen vessel. This, just statistically, if we look, this is an actual conversation I have with my cousin. If we look at other people, let's pick names out of a hat. Martin Luther King, Joan of Arc, Jesus, anybody that you can just, Allah, Buddha, anybody, Krishna, anybody, just pick names out of your head. And in a box, and Donald Trump, it doesn't make sense. So I ask her, how do we put all of those names together in one container? And you know what she says to me? And this is the perfect answer because it fits every question you ask them. I'm not God. That's their answer. I'm not God. So no matter what you said.
I'm flabbergasted.
That's what.
That you're related to these people.
I know, it's horrifying.
And you see them at holidays?
Yes, you should see Thanksgiving.
Wait, why do you go?
Because it's fun. And also,
because it's fun.
It's just a barrel.
Fuck all of them.
It really is. The interesting thing is that when we talk politics, and we always give ourselves sort of a time limit, strangely, conversely, actually, they're really lovely people. They came to mine and Chris Ann's wedding. They supported us back in the days when it was illegal. Literally getting married was illegal. So there's a part of them I always feel like that I can touch that makes sense. And so I really try to give them the same courtesy. I try to listen to them instead of just hear them and go into immediate judgment. Well, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. He's a terrible person. He's a liar. What you believe is wrong. I try to do what I ask and expect them to do. So that's the test for me, is how do I go to this place where I'm probably not welcome or understood or even seen? How do I go and shut up and listen?
That's very nice of you that you want to listen.
Well, there's no other way to have
There's no
dialogue,
other
though,
way,
Joey.
yes.
How else are we going to have any conversation? Otherwise, it's monologuing. And that's not getting anybody anywhere. Nothing is changing with people screaming at each other. That never works. I've been in abusive relationships. It doesn't work. The only way that we're going to figure out how to do this together is if we figure it out together. It's the only way.
Maybe you should have spoken to those Trump people. I feel like you could have changed everyone. There's something about you. You do have this evangelical grace that.
I appreciate that. I think that. Thank you. I think that they wanted me to sing. This was the thing. They wanted me to.
Okay, I'm glad I said no.
Yeah, no, yeah, you were right.
They don't deserve that.
No, you're right.
I didn't say, like, you're not allowed to. I was like, I don't think there's anything good about appearing on their stage.
That's exactly what you said to me, almost verbatim, actually. And that's where, and my wife got triggered, too. She said, they want you to sing? Why do they want you to sing? And I never did find out because you said no and Chris Ann said no, and so I didn't do it.
Yes. There's no reason to walk. Just because we know how to walk into a lion cage doesn't mean we should.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
I'm learning in my life.
You're right.
That we get this adrenaline from going up to the monster
Yeah.
and saying, see me, I'm a person, I'm whatever, and just being so close to the monster and insisting that we're seen. But I'm rethinking that.
Yeah, no,
since the world has become sort of monstrous.
No, it's really something, this land.
This land is really something.
It's really something, this land.
I mean, I want to bring everybody back to this moment. I think, like, maybe however many years ago, 6 years ago, when we were at the White House.
Yes.
And we were welcomed into the White House and honored, and then I think we really thought the world was moving in a very particular direction. Like it was going to be Barack, and then it was going to be Hillary, and it was going to be Kamala, and there was going to be a world order run by black women and queer people. We could see it coming.
Yes.
It was on the horizon. We were taking pictures of Alexandra and Zachary Drucker and Trace Lizette in the hall with the portraits of the first ladies. We felt like everything was on the verge of going our way. I was like, wow, Obama's been there, and there's been great black parties. Now there's going to be great queer and trans parties. Then there's going to be great black, queer, trans parties. The White House is going to be so fun.
It's so great.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, the idea that we're having to, what I feel like is lobby cis allies to speak on behalf of trans lives is just shocking to me. It's so sad, you know? I mean, I have to say that, like, when I saw that, like, Netflix was doing a festival called Netflix is a Joke and that Dave Chappelle was headlining, I was just sort of like, well, was this all for nothing? Like, what happened? And why don't people stand up for us? Or for trans people who are, like, basically the most marginalized, sweetest, neediest humans on the planet.
Neediest is...
It's true. It's like trans people are so in need of love.
Yes.
And being seen. And it's not a conversation to me. When you say, like, there's two sides, like, I just don't see the other side.
Well, I never said there's two sides. I only said we needed to listen. And also, here's the thing. We've done this before, Joey. This isn't new. It feels new. It's not. We've done this before. The pendulum is swinging. The first time we did this, it was in the late 60s. And the first time we did this, just walking outside got me arrested. Literally walking out in this dress, I could have been arrested. And spent time in jail. That's no longer true. Back in the late 60s, two humans who identified male and male or female and female certainly couldn't have gone into any church and been wed. That's true today. It wasn't true back then. And we were fighting the same. Remember, it's the same people. It's the same people. We were fighting the same fight. Now, I'm not an optimist. I know I sound like one. I'm not. I don't believe everything's going to turn out great. I believe everything's going to turn out. What I mean is nothing's going to end. We are not at the end of the world. We are not at the end of the political fight. We are not at the end of the revolution. Nothing has come. Gertrude Stein is one of my favorite quotes. The end of something is always the beginning of something else. Everything is an ellipses, meaning everything continues on. Nothing stops. Nothing. When you go to bed at night, you dream, and then you dream, and then you wake up in the morning, and then you wake up.
Clearly never had Ambien.
No, it's not. I haven't.
You don't dream, and you don't wake up in the morning.
Well, you're right about that.
You wake up the next afternoon.
I know. I've had MDA, but I've never had an Ambien. And so your day continues on like that, yes? Like nothing stops. Nothing. It only stops if you say to yourself it stops, right? Like, this is the end of my day. There's no such thing. This is the beginning of my morning. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as a sunrise or a sunset. We're moving. We're the one in motion. I say this because we forget our own sense of being, our own sense of presence on the planet, and what that means and what it's meant. History is on our side. That is a fact. You can open up a history book and see that that's true. So the problem is not that the outrageous is occurring. That's not the problem. The problem is we, and I include myself in this, are lazy. We are depending on history repeating itself. And there are a whole bunch of other humans in our country who have not given up. They did not give up. They didn't rest. They didn't say to themselves, oh, everything's going great. This is going great. First Barack, and then Hillary, and then Kamala, and then, holy shit, let's party. They didn't do that. They didn't do that. They said, all right, how do we strategize? What do we have to do? And who do we have to do it to? You. We'll do it to you. because you're the weakest of the pack. And we've always known that. Now, what's our strategy? Well, we'll come at you from all sides, socially, economically, and politically, so that there's nowhere for you to go. And then thirdly, and finally, and the greatest, probably the smartest thing they did, we're going to rearrange the rules of voting, how you can vote, where you can vote. As a matter of fact, we're going to rearrange them so well, we're going to start an insurrection. It doesn't matter if it works or if it doesn't. The fact is, it happened. And it terrifies you. So, I say all of this so that we can ignite ourselves into action. Nice is great. I love nice people, but my cat is freaking nice. Kindness takes action, and sometimes kindness doesn't feel great. Sometimes kindness is a little rough. In order for us to be kind to those human beings who are coming after us, we have to turn education around and turn it into a combative tool. When we say, this is who we are, this is what we deserve, we now say, and this is how you're going to behave. I know it hurts. I know it's weird. I know it's scary. I know it doesn't make sense. This is how you're going to behave. I'm no longer going to explain my pronouns to you. I'm no longer going to explain my family to you. I'm no longer going to have discussions about who I love and why I love them. That discussion is gone, over, and done with. You want to hear that? Go to YouTube. There's a whole bunch of shit on there. But I'm done. What's going to happen now is we're going to talk about me, my presence, and my revolutionary spirit, so that I can tell you in no uncertain terms, what you've done will not be tolerated. That's what we have to do.
Yeah, it's like bringing a sense of moral clarity to not only the right, but to the left, to really help see how white supremacy and patriarchy are working together right now with critical race theory and the anti-trans bills as a way to get Trump or somebody like Trump back in office and get people to the polls and get people riled up. It's you know, you say it happened in the 60s, but it also did happen in Germany, you know, at Magnus Hirschfeld's Institute right before the Holocaust, where trans people and books that said that there were more than two genders were the books that were burned, you know, as we are constantly trying to sort of ring these alarm bells. I mean, to me, it does feel like the world is on fire, and it's as simple as people using the binary to turn people on one another.
That's exactly.
And then I'm just like, well, if I'm an artist, I should be able to figure out how to translate that into popular culture or into some way of, you know, some idea of an intersectional power movement around tolerance or love. But the Trumps and the Putins are just so much more clicky and sticky.
Yeah. They're clicky and sticky.
Like, you want to see what they're doing, these awful men. And it's like awful, drunk, white daddy is like raging around the planet.
Yep.
And
what do we do?
Chicken.
Well, we do the same thing, except we do it with education as our weapon, as our tool. And what I mean by that is we keep reminding them who we are and that we're here and that we're not going anywhere. We just keep reminding them. And we get bigger and louder and take up more space. And we're smart about navigation. We get into those rooms. If we have allies that are sitting here watching or on the space machine, if there are allies,
www.spacemachine.
I'm 110.
.edu.
Exactly. Yeah. But those people, those are the humans we need to get into the room and speak with us, not for us. Don't talk about the trans experience if you're not trans. It pisses me off. But to bring us into the conversation, that's what we need. So, yeah, we need to do the same thing. We need to get just as big and loud and silly so that people want to find out what we're saying just as much as we want to find out what they're saying.
Yes, we want to be awful and loud.
And big and swing rubber chickens.
And assholes.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
I should be able to do that for one day at least.
Totally.
But that's the thing. We don't get to actually do all those things.
No, we don't.
That's what yeah.
Well, unless you go on the TikTok.
Okay, tell me what's going on over there. What side of TikTok are you on?
I love you're not on my, don't you follow my TikTok?
Of course I do, but I'm just... For the American audience.
For the WWW. love the TikTok. And the TikTok has changed because it used to be just the lip syncing.
Yes.
And then now it's turned
And the
into
dancing.
monologuing, where people go, when I was 7. And they do the whole thing. And when I was little, when I was a little human being, I would, because I was bullied at school constantly. And so I would fake illnesses to stay home. And I would stay home, and I would lip sync. And this is back in the day when we had record players. Do you remember those? Do you remember record players? You can Google that.
I don't understand.
It's okay. And there was a big round thing with a hole, and you put it on a and it played.
This makes no sense.
Doesn't matter. And so I would put. There was one of my favorite live concerts was Barbra Streisand live at the Forum. It's a great, about 5 people have this album. I'm one of the 5. And she had long hair, it was great. And so I would play, because it was a concert, there was, applause, and there was talking, and I would do the whole concert. Wow. So I would go into my mother's closet, and I would dress up in her, green muumuu. That was my favorite thing, because it was one long thing, like this dress that I'm wearing now. And her white velvet, vinyl go-go boots that went up to about here that zipped. Zzz, remember those? These boots are made. And I would do that. And then my mother wore wiglets, what they called wiglets back in the day.
Everybody had a wiglet, somewhere.
And it was the kind where you clip, wiglet.
Little height.
So good. And I would take 3 or 4 of them and go, right? And then I would go into her makeup, and I would do the eyeshadow and the lipstick and the powder. I looked great. And I would do the whole, and I would make, I can't believe I'm telling this story. And, is this interesting? And I would make a whole lunch. I would make a tuna fish sandwich or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. This is not a joke. And I would stay with me, and then I would make chocolate milk, the Nestle's Quick.
Can't forget it.
And then the white Ruffles potato chips, and I would put it in the kitchen for intermission.
And then you would go to the table and have your intermission.
I would go to the table. I would do the whole concert and lip sync, right? And I had choreography, and then my backup people were over there. I'm kicking things. Oh, look.
Worry not. It's just a bottle of water.
Just a bottle of water. And so I would I'm so excited to tell you this story. And so, are you going to get my bottle of water, Louise? Oh, bless your heart. It's so
Let's just rescue it so people stop thinking about it.
Yeah. So we can get. Thank you, Louise. I won't drink
Louise, everybody.
Louise. Louise Moon. Thank you, darling. She did my hair.
Yes. Your hair looks
That's not a joke. She actually did my hair. And and then I would do the whole thing. And then when intermission came, like Barbara even says, if you listen in the thing, we'll be right back. And I would be right back. And I would go, and I would eat, and have the whole take 15 minutes, only 15. And then I would come back, and then put the record, and finish the concert. So when TikTok happened, I was like, people lip sync, and not only lip sync, but it's in your palm. You can watch it in the palm of your hand, and people love it. They used to bully me because I lip synced. And now it's like a thing. I love TikTok so much I don't know what to do.
What kind of people do you follow on TikTok?
I follow all the kids. Like you, I follow all the kids.
Those kids.
Yep. I follow all the queer kids and non-binary kids. And we do duets. You can do duets on the TikTok. And the Golden Girls is my favorite.
Yes.
Because I'm a really good Dorothy for some reason. I don't know why. But I'm a really good Dorothy. And so you tape one thing, listen to me. But you tape one thing, and then your partner does the second thing, and then it's side by side, and it looks like you're doing a scene.
And speaking of which, could I pimp you out to do a little Katharine Hepburn right now?
Do you want me to do Katharine Hepburn?
Sort of. Should we pretend that you're Katharine Hepburn?
You don't have to pretend. Watch this.
Just no pretending.
No, we'll just do it. The calla lilies are in bloom again, which is awfully strange because I planted marijuana. Thank you. I remember Spencer. You remember him, Spencer?
Vaguely.
Yes, he was an old poop. And I said to him once, Spencer. And he said, yes. I said, what are you doing in the kitchen? And he said, well, Katie, dear, if you knew how to cook, we could fire the chef. And I said, well, Spencer, if you knew how to fuck, we could fire the chauffeur.
Amazing. Bravo.
Thanks.
That really happened, huh? She fucked the chauffeur?
She might have.
In the car?
She might have.
Yeah, she probably
was,
did.
She was a bit of a tramp.
Katie Hepburn going down tonight.
I can't believe you picked me out to do Katie.
Oh my God!
I love doing
I must.
Katie. Yeah.
I must put you on to do
I
all
love
of your
the Katie.
things.
I've been doing Katie literally since I was 10 years old.
Wow.
10 years old, and my mother used to say, I mean, I can just talk about me. It's all about me, right?
That's what tonight is about.
Yes, thank God.
Everything you want to say, you should.
Okay, good. So my mother would throw parties because she was a raging alcoholic, so anything to drink. So she would have these fabulous parties with the Wiglets, and she would, like groups of her friends, and she would invite me out to entertain. So I was the entertainment. Yes, no, I loved it, honey. Are you kidding? I loved it because my brother was the smart one. Like, he was the smart one, and he was the one my dad was like, this is my son. And me, I was like, this is my son. So, but when I did stuff, then people would go, oh, so it would be that kind of thing. So my mother would pimp me out. And she asked me, because my favorite movie, I'm 10. My favorite movie was Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? I'm 10. How gay is that? 10 years old, and I still remember that. What's that monologue? Do you know the movie? Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Yes? What the hell's the matter with you people? So Katharine Hepburn and Sidney Poitier, yes, Spencer Tracy's last film, Hepburn won her 3rd Oscar for this. She's got this great monologue where she's telling off her friend who's running the art gallery with her, who walks into her house and sees Sidney Poitier and Katharine Hepburn's daughter and figures out that they're having a relationship, a dirty, dirty, mixed-race relationship. Dirty, dirty. So she gets...
dirty.
Yes, dirty. And she's angry about it. She's like Gladys Kravitz angry. And so she's leaving, and Hepburn excuses herself, I'll be right back. And she goes out, and they're in the car, and she has this great monologue. She says something like, oh, come on, Alex. Hillary, start your motor. I want you to do, I can't believe I remember this. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go to the store, back to the art gallery, and I want you to tell Clary that if there's anything she can't handle there, she's to give me a ring if there's anything she can't handle herself. And then go into the office and make out a check for the sum of $5,000. And then carefully, Hillary, but carefully, begin to remove absolutely everything that would subsequently remind me that you had ever been there. Especially that yellow thing with the bulbs which you have such an affection for. Then take the check for $5,000, which I feel you deserve, and get permanently lost. It's not that I don't want to know you, Hillary, although I don't. It's just that I feel we're not really the sort of people that you can afford to associate with. Don't speak, Hillary, just go. Wow. I can't believe I remember that. What is wrong with me?
Amazing.
What is the matter with me?
I have nothing like
Bonnie,
that.
what is wrong with me? My friend
Bonnie
Bonnie's
will
here.
know.
What is wrong with me? I remember, I can't remember, what we talked about in the dressing room, but I can remember a monologue from when I was 10 years old.
That's amazing. I don't have, monologues in my head, but I have, Jewel commercials. Remember?
What?
Chicago?
Jewel commercials?
Yeah. Remember
Okay.
Chicago? Just like,
yes.
Ah, summer, fresh summer fruits, luscious peaches, peaches, juicy plums, plums, tasty nectarines, nectarines, summer Bartlett pears, refreshing, but not filling. Da, 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 da. That's all I got.
Refreshing.
Fresh summer fruits. You don't remember that from Chicago?
I do not remember that, but I like it a lot.
Refreshing.
Yeah.
But not filling. Okay, let me ask you a question.
It's really
Everybody
catchy.
wants to know.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I really want to know.
Are you sure?
I want to know about the exhaustion level of playing Madame Morrible in Wicked on Broadway. And also, let's just give you a hand for that.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
I want to hear the
Very
stuff
kind.
that nobody hears.
Like,
Like walking up to your dressing room. How many flights of stairs?
none, because it was flat.
Okay.
It was a thing. You just walked to it. However,
What was weird? What was unexpected?
well, I'll tell you. Well, there was a lot of things that were unexpected. First, the stage is on a rake. Are you familiar with that term? So usually a stage is like this. A rake means the stage is like that. It's slanted. Now, this stage, the show is 18 years old. 18 years this damn thing has been running. So this stage is also 18 years old. So when they built it, it was completely fine. And now it's like too steep, apparently, for something. It's like not supposed to be that steep, so it's very steep.
Are you in danger of sliding into the orchestra pit at all times?
Well, here's the thing. So I'm 60. I have bad knees. I have all kinds of things. So when you get on the stage and you walk around, then you sort of like get used to, you're like, oh, okay. And you kind of get used to it for a couple of minutes. And then you don't think about it. You kind of forget it. Well, there's this one scene. There's this one scene where for some unknown reason, they have me and Glinda and Fierro, who's Glinda's love interest, in a big box, with wheels on it that's moving downstage while we're singing. And I don't remember the song now, but it's something like, I'm singing and you're not. It's like really loud and big. And it's very complicated. The music is incredible, but it's very complicated music. So it's sort of Sondheimian in a way. Like somebody will say, what time is it? I'm not sure. 4 o'clock. What? 4 o'clock. Like you go. So you have to think. This isn't like, oh, what a beautiful morn. It's not like that kind of thing. It's very intricate. And so I'm on a box in a costume. It looks like Liberace threw up all over me. It was huge. It was this big halo of feathers, green feathers around my head, and a very large wig that sort of was very heavy, and a big thing that did that and did that and like out. 3 children had to carry my train out with me. It was a massive costume on a box with wheels. 2 other actors rolling down the hill while we're singing. Now, we're not only singing and the orchestra's playing, there is an open pit of people playing instruments that we're headed towards. And the stage is slanted. This is not a joke, kids. This is what's happening. And I can't really see very well at all. So the only thing I know is that the sound in the pit that we're headed to is getting louder and louder and louder. And we're not on a track. It's not like, we're on a safety thing. 2 dudes, Chuck and Frank, are in back, and they're in their 80s, probably. And they give us a little shove at the beginning of the... And that's how we roll.
You're supposed to roll out
We're
a little
supposed
bit.
to roll out like this. And I said to the children, because they're all, she's Glinda. It's Glinda's thing. It's a big party for Glinda. And she's got a big microphone, and she's... singing that high cue that they all sang. And she's there. It's her thing. So I'm like, have at it. And then Fierro's, next to her. And Morrible is 3 of them are supposed to be here. And I said, I'm not standing anywhere near you. I'm going to be in the back holding on to both things like this, and so that I don't die. Because if the thing rolls into the pit, which it could do, because nothing stops it. There's no barrier. There's all we see is the conductor doing this as we roll towards him. I said, if that thing tips over, the 2 of you bitches are going in. I'll be the only one holding on. So I'm not going anywhere. So that in and of itself was horrifying. Now one night, now remember this costume is absolutely insane. It's gorgeous, but it was absolutely insane. And because my knees were bad, I have on, those ace bandage things, but they have the right? So that they stick, you know, whatever that's called.
Velcro. I'm hearing the
That's
audience
exactly
say
what
Velcro.
it is. That's
the
what
answer
it
is over here.
That's what it is, the Velcro. And so I'm there, and I'm standing, holding on, peeing, because I'm nervous, and we're rolling down, Chuck and Frank, and we start going, and she's singing, "Ah!" And the conductor's going, oh, this is going so well. And I'm absolutely terrified. And the audience loves it. They're like, they can't believe what they're looking at, because it's wicked, and everything's fabulous. And so I'm in the back praying, and they leave, and I'm supposed to, Fierro and Glinda get off the rolling catastrophe, and I'm supposed to very, move this way very slowly and listen to their conversation. Well, I move because I'm so frightened. My knees are like this, and I begin to move, but the Velcro came off and went, and this one went, and when I went, they went, whoop. So I'm standing on the rolling box, and I have to get to the other side of the rolling box, but I can't move. So I go, this is not a joke, this actually happened on a Broadway stage. I'm standing there like this, my ass is just like it is now towards everybody, because I turned around because I thought, well, they won't see me. I'm the only brown transsexual lady on stage. They can see me. Anyway, so I'm standing there, and I think, well, move as carefully as you can, Alex, and try not to steal, focus. So I do this. And I lean in and listen. And I thought, nah, that's the end of the box for me. That was the only surprise I had, was the great big box and the hill that I climbed down and tried to get to the, oh, bless your hearts.
Box with your knees taped together.
My knees taped together. And I have to say, to Wicked's credit, they were so kind to me. They were so generous, because I feel like I complained a lot. Because I was like, the rake and the thing. And they were like, we know that yes, it's been that way for 18 years.
Are all Broadway stages raked?
No. And I asked, actually, why it was like that. And they gave me a great reason. It actually makes sense. You can't see that it's raked from the stage. You actually don't know that. And so I actually thought this was brilliant. When the curtain rises and all of the humans come out in Oz, you notice that something is a little off. You're not sure what it is, because they're walking strange, or they come down at you very quickly, or they seem to sort of float and fly. But because you can't tell if the stage is raked, you just notice that all of a sudden you're in a very, very different and unique world. I actually thought that was brilliant. So it did make sense to me. It was just a surprise.
And how many days did you do? How many
9,022. I don't know, a lot. 3 months, 4 months,
What were those 2 show
6
days
months.
like?
Hard. It's also hard when you're, of a certain age.
Yes.
And, bad knees and things like that. Yeah. It was, but, it's Wicked. So doing the show, I was in Oz. When I was, it's the first, Dorothy is every man. Dorothy is all of us. Dorothy is every human being going down every journey, fighting every witch, going through every forest, and realizing at the end the power, the divine power that we all have, that's been with us all along, that we never believe. The end when Glinda says, all you have to do is click your heels. And she goes, why didn't you? Are you nuts? What's the matter with you? Why didn't you tell me? And Glinda's very honest. She said, you wouldn't have believed me, which is true. Go back in your life and think how many times you've done when somebody has said, I don't think that's the person for you. Or this job, I don't think this is a good idea for you. Or I don't think you should. All those times when you go, you don't know what you're talking about. I love him. You don't know the whole relationship. Or this job is great. It may have its downfalls, but it's great. We don't listen. We don't listen because we don't listen to our guides. We don't recognize our own power. So it's sort of true at the end. And this movie my mother was an emotionally distant woman who strangely became one of my best friends towards the end of her life, strangely. We got to be very, very good friends, thank God. And this movie was one of the only times I remember her actually holding me, holding on to me when the monkeys flew, or when the witch melted, or when we had an emotional dialogue that we just couldn't say to each other. And that's what this movie represented for me. And then one day, I find myself in Oz. Literally can you imagine? In Oz. You know, some actors say, well, I have to prepare and I have to think. I didn't need any of that. It made perfect sense to me. It never felt like an acting job, ever. It felt like a gift. And let me tell you, the trans and non-binary children that came to see this, and this was during the pandemic when cases were starting to rise, they still came. I had one non-binary kid, who was I think 9 or 10 years old, waiting outside the stage door. And they were looking at me. I can't even explain this to you, but I saw something very familiar in their eyes. And I knelt down and I signed their program. They couldn't speak, they just sort of did this. And I signed their program. And they had a mask on, I had a mask on. And they said, I'll never forget this. They said, I never thought it was possible. Just looking at me, and I think seeing someone of this generation, the fact of me, although it upsets an entire group of people, it also reminds an entire group of people. That was, I think, the greatest gift about Wicked for me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Well, I just want to tell you, I want to just share with you how unbelievably proud and in awe I am of you for this book. You have been getting amazing reviews, amazing press. I'm so excited for everybody who came tonight to have it. And we're going to spend a little bit of time with you guys in the audience now, getting some questions. You have Q's, we have A's.
Oh.
Q's and A's.
Q's and A's.
And speaking of Phil Donahue, this is our Wilshire Boulevard version of Phil Donahue over here. And he'll be moving through the audience. Raise your hand if you have questions for Miss Alexandra Billings.
Great, and just a quick reminder, we like to say questions typically start with a W or an H, sometimes a D, and they're generally short. If you have one, raise your hand, and I will bring you a microphone.
Hi, Alex. Just going off that last comment, just any comment on Caitlin, because she is going to be the face and voice that so many kids hear and parents hear, and not your face outside the stage door. So any, approach towards how we're going to deal with that, because that's
well, you hit it on the head. We have to deal with it. We have to deal with it. We can't pretend it's not happening. I mean, that's the solution. We have to deal with it. And you're allowed to have your own feelings about who she is and what she's doing. We have to relinquish any kind of guilt just because she is in our trans community, that we have to be one way or another towards this human. I think that will probably be the greatest gift, is to allow ourselves to have feelings about her and to be able to say, and we have to remember, although this doesn't really change anything, it's good to, in my brain, it's good to remember where we started, because it helps us light the way to where we're going. Caitlin was an extremely famous human being for decades, world famous, and lived presenting a gender identity that was against everything they actually were. Try and imagine that if you can, because it wasn't just being at home, getting married, having children. That's huge enough. But to have the weight of the globe on you, praising you, saying, this is the ideal image of whatever they were the ideal image of, being honored over and over and over again. And then waiting 7 decades, I think, 6 decades, 7 decades, to finally go, that was all a lie. it was all, sorry, it was all a lie. All those people feel betrayed. So they're dealing with all of that. I think what happened was, it was simpler to go back. What I mean is, for Caitlin, it's easier to assimilate into this self-loathing and self-hatred, right? I've done this terrible thing. I've done a terrible thing to my family, done a terrible thing to my friends. I've let down the globe. They're right. I am a terrible kind of person. So it's easier for me to fit in that container. That's where they live. So you can't change other people. There's nothing we can do about the way she feels. There's nothing we can do about her politics. Nothing. It's a waste of time. The only thing we can do is have our own feelings about it and be verbal and say that. I don't like the way you're behaving. I think what you're saying is dangerous. Here might be a better way to approach trans children. I believe that all people should play sports. I believe that everybody should be able to go to the bathroom when they have to go to the bathroom. Things like that. And otherwise, do a lot of meditation and prayer that she, the next time she passes a mirror, she likes what she sees.
Hello.
Hi.
I would like to say I'm delighted to be here, and I'm a big fan of both of your work. And my question is, there are so many heartfelt moments in your book, and really soul-wrenching moments that affected me. And I'm wondering if it was a catharsis of some kind for you to write it. And once you were done, did it help you coalesce your thoughts into the message that you are putting out going forward?
What a great question. Thanks, friend. The catharsis is actually happening. All kinds of wonderful people kept telling me, this is going to be so cathartic when you're writing your book. It's going to be so, you're not going to believe it. It's going to be amazing. It was the worst experience I've ever had in my life. It was so awful. And the catharsis didn't really happen until recently. What I've noticed is speaking to people and being asked specific questions makes me think and look back at my life and go, oh, that might have been terrible, but right now I'm able to speak about it and not feel terrible. So I guess that means something. I guess I've traveled, I guess. I don't know that I'm better, but at least I'm different. I'm not in the same place. And in answer to the second part of your question, as far as what I want, I wrote the book for a very specific reason. I'm such a terrible planner. It's why I married a planner. I'm a terrible planner. But I had this great plan. This was my plan. Ready? My plan was that I would write this book, and it would be like a historical map of queerness for your face. Like I thought, this is going to be a great everyone will be able to map out from the 1960s to now what happened in the trans journey. I'm going to leave a footprint, for heaven's sake. And it's a great plan. Stupid. So as I'm writing it, I realized that I was writing a thank you to all the teachers in my life, that I didn't have to worry about history. History is going to take care of itself. And if you find a through line of the trans experience in there, that's great. But if I concentrate on that, I'm missing exactly what I'm trying to find, which are my guides. And that's why at the very end, I wrote a letter to my students, because my students are the greatest teachers I've ever had in my life. They are the greatest reflection of the human experience. And they continually show me this mirror of not just who I am, but who I was, And I'm able to embrace that because the generations keep changing. And what I am in the room, when I first started teaching, was over 40 years ago. What I was in the room was an anomaly. And shocking to students, shocking. And I had to sort of prove myself that I was not just a great teacher, I was a great transgender teacher. And now I walk in the room and I teach. And that's because of them. That's not because of me, that's because of them. Because I saw in their eyes what they believed I was. So the book turned out to be a greater gift for me than I thought. Yeah.
For forming your life into this story that allows you to really talk about righteous love, which is who you are on this planet. You just show up with righteous love, and you're a hero for everybody, whether it's trans and non-binary kids, or just who we need right now in this moment in the world, who can stand for clarity and not want to murder everybody, which I think is the way
Yeah.
I feel day to day.
That's okay.
Do we have any more questions?
Okay, you can feel
Hi there.
There's one in the back there.
So I'm a pageant fiend, so I'd love any memories about your Miss Continental days. And if you think that if the pageantry is a little antiquated at this point.
Oh boy, I hope not. I know it has to change. I think it should. I think the rules should change, and it should be more inclusive. In case you're not familiar, there is a pageant system for trans women and trans men. The Miss Continental pageant system is probably one of the most prestigious. The Miss Florida is also very prestigious as well. Miss USA. But we have our own pageants, which I think is great and I love. My dream has always been that we combine the pageants, that Miss USA is Miss USA, and whether you're cis or trans or all of the colors in between, you can enter. So I love having Miss Continental, but I would like any woman, whatever container they fit into, to be able to enter those pageants. I would like it to be more inclusive. Because for us, the talent numbers were always lip-synced and sung live, and I'd love to see cis women lip-sync. I think that would be a hoot and a half, honey.
Yeah. So you think pageants, the idea of parading oneself and displaying one's feminine wares, is worth continuing
Hell yeah.
as a
Hell
thing?
yeah. Oh yeah.
I still watch them.
Absolutely.
I love a pageant.
I love 'em.
I don't know why.
I love them. Well, because they are the other end of the scale. That's why we love them. They are the presentation, and we have to remember that it's a performance. They are the presentation of this side of femininity. Like there's no 1, there's no 10, but if the pageant system were under a number, it would probably be a 2. It'd be pretty close to 1. So it's all performance.
Yeah.
And
Right. It's the highest femme.
yeah,
It's the parade of the highest femmes
absolutely. It's
in
like
the town.
what RuPaul says: you're born naked, and the rest is drag.
Yeah.
So
It's drag shows for cis people.
hell yeah, it's delicious.
Yes, they want them.
No.
They should have them.
They should. Yeah.
Where's Phil Donahue?
We have
Where's Phil Tony?
two more
Phil Donahue?
questions.
Hi.
Hi.
First of all, I'm listening to your book on Audible, and I am so happy to be here right now to see you live and in person because I'm only on chapter 11 right now, but it's going to bring so much more to life. To see you live and in person, seeing you who you are, and listening to you perform your book, it's really a gift, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I have Transparent, and your show really was fabulous because my Transparent came out when I was 23. I'm 53 now. But my Transparent is also a starch Trump supporting. Yes. It's hard, but that's not the hardest part. The hardest part is that Jane doesn't recognize her intergenerational trauma that she went through, nor does she recognize the trauma that she put me through. And so I don't even know if it's a real question it's just really about recognizing and understanding intergenerational trauma. And I listened to your beginning chapters about your childhood and the trauma that you went through with your parents and how you made it through.
And listen, Angel, here's what I'm going to tell you. You can release all of the responsibility. Like right now, you can just make a decision to do that. That it's not because you're holding on to it very tightly. I can feel it from here. All you have to do is allow yourself to be as angry and frustrated and filled with rage as you want. It's not harmful. It's actually healthy. That's part of self-care. Stop. Don't behave that way. Stop acting like that. Stop saying things like that. That hurts my feelings. It's okay to do that. And give yourself the gift of your own freedom. Free yourself of any familial ties. What I mean is, the fact that this human being is your parent is just like I was saying about Caitlin. They fit in a container. That's all that's necessary. That you honor. The rest of it is about individual relationships. They don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't have a clue. How can you see when you're blind? So, you have a choice. You can either stand there and wave your arms and beg to be seen and scream and yell, or you can live the life that you're put here to live. Be the beacon. Be radiant. Be kind. You have a very powerful circle of friends around you who love you deeply and care for you and hold space for you. And they have for a long time, haven't they? Yeah. So that's your family.
Wait, are you psychic or do you guys know each other?
No. It's just,
Chris Lee knows best?
So yeah,
Is that a psychic show?
go towards
You
them.
just can feel this.
And yeah,
Because you should have a psychic show if you
that's
don't
a
know.
terrible idea.
Do you have a circle of friends?
It's a terrible.
That's beautiful. How do you know these things? Are you an intuit? Or?
Because I can feel what's going on. And so just allow yourself that chosen family. And know that your parent will always be your parent, no matter how you feel, no matter how they feel. Here's what I can tell you. They love you with a generation's historic kind of love. The battle is what they've been taught. It's not you. Yes? Yeah. No. That's exactly right. Yep.
We can go to an Al-Anon meeting later if you want to come with me.
It's a good idea. It's a really good
That's
idea.
what we do at Al-Anon. We stop trying to change people.
It's a really good idea.
It's great.
Yep, it's good.
It's been great.
It's good thinking.
If anybody wants to stop trying to change people.
Yeah.
And our last question for the evening.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for this conversation. I've really, really enjoyed witnessing it. And thank you both for talking about the richness that has been brought to your life and your social media accounts by, observing the youth. And I just think it's so helpful for young people to hear sort of affirmation from, no offense intended, elders.
Love it.
Great,
Wear it like a
great.
badge. Love it.
I'm wondering, though, if there's, to either of you, if there are intra-community conflicts that you witness among young people that you've seen happen over, decade after decade after decade, and your sort of opinion on freeing ourselves of battling each other, so that we can get closer to what you were talking about too, in terms of crossing bipartisan lines and extending beyond our community.
This is a great question. I would actually love to hear what you have to say too.
I mean,
Joey.
I'm confused, honestly. I really feel like the world is changing so quickly that I can barely hold on. And that, like, something happened in the past few years. It's sort of like, I heard people talk about cultures like there was monoculture. We were watching beauty pageants. We were watching Battle of the Network Stars. We were watching Love Boat. We were watching the Super Bowl. And then, you know, everything kind of got spread out, and we all had our different channels. And then suddenly in the past, like maybe year or so, we're back with this monoculture where we're on this ride. And you know, it's either war, or it's Alec Baldwin, or it's Kanye, or we're all facing, you know, even when Will Smith, like, slapped Chris Rock, I was like, wow, we're all decompensating together around masculinity this week. And men everywhere asking this question, are we supposed to be protecting our wives? Are we supposed to, you know, these questions are really questions of war. When is violence okay? So I feel like we're on this major trip that's so much bigger than any of our identities. And what I've heard people call horizontal violence, like punching sideways instead of punching, you know, up, I think it's just part of it. We're all traumatized. Every trans person. We are so traumatized. And even cis people are traumatized. Everybody's really in trauma right now. So I don't know. I don't really hold anybody accountable for the kind of weird ass intra anything, because I think we're all at sea trying to understand really what an intersectional power movement would look like. And that the most marginalized need to be centered. And just that act of pulling the marginalized into the center, moment after moment, day after day, is nearly impossible. So I think, you know, just cheers to all of the queer people who are getting up every morning and still believing in this world where we're being abandoned by the left. I mean, you know, every time I talk to a gay cis man, I had a friend of mine say to me at a party, could you just tell me what we've done wrong? Because suddenly everybody hates us. You know, they were like, we used to be LGBTQ and we were all together, and then suddenly, like, cis is a bad word. Yeah. Like, wow. Cis game, like, suddenly I've become the enemy. Yeah. And I was like, okay, do you really want to know? Yeah. And he's like, I really want to know, just tell me. And I was like, well, I think that everybody else who's not white and cis and gay is feeling a little bit like, we wish you would turn your institutional power more towards more radical means. And he's like, well, I grew up with sisters. And I was like, And then he was like, I'm going to tell you what. You're going to come over. Oh. I'm going to open up a bottle of wine, and you're going to explain this trans stuff to me. Guys, that's our buddies. These are our liberal, gay, cis men friends who I don't know how to wake people up around white privilege and cis privilege and patriarchal privilege. People are so busy having these questions, you know, about, well, who goes first and who's the most marginalized? It's like the most marginalized are the most marginalized. They're the people who don't have any institutional power. But I think, you know, if infighting is what we're doing, as you said, the divine feminine, you know, she even chose Trump for something. And it's like the isness, the divine feminine, the isness, the allowing, the what is. There's no isness, like the goddess. You know, it's just it's just allowing. That's all we have is this world, is this holding on to each other as we're tumbling towards utter disaster, like utter disaster. Putin saying, well, actually, let me think about it. I might need to get some of my nuclear weapons out. Could happen tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Like, we're tumbling towards disaster, and the binary and the way that, you know, power is taken. For me, I look at the news and I think, well, they're talking about, well, now we're bringing, you know, these particular, we've decided that we're going to bring these weapons to Ukraine. It's like, why isn't anybody saying, like, you know, violence at any cost is not okay? Why are they treating it like a football game and, you know, that the regions, and it's like the whole system is just, it's leading us to disaster.
Well,
that's why I don't blame the youth for their infighting.
No, yeah.
Like, if the youth need to infight, that's fine. We don't know where we're going.
Well,
we're trying to get stronger.
Who are the captains that you're talking about when you say, right? Who are the captains of those teams? Who are they?
Yeah, the captains are all, you know, men,
right,
trading oil and resources.
Right. And when you look at this, you know, any major sport, my favorite conversation now is how they're trying to save women's sports. It's my favorite conversation. I love it. It's just adorable. Bless their little hearts. And the idea that they're trying to integrate women into the conversation, to the mainstream conversation is not only absurd, it's also a conversation they don't know how to have. So they don't have the language. They don't understand it. What they've been taught through, and I'm talking mainly about the cis patriarchy, what they've been taught throughout their lives, throughout generations, is how to be in a male ensemble, not an ensemble, but a male ensemble, and take over. And anything. Rooms, land, weapons, love, sex, anything. That's what they've been doing for generations. How long, think about this, how long have the humans who identify as female in this room, how long have you been able to vote in this country? Think about it. That's not a long time. That's not near long enough to be able to sit down and strategize how to take over. Now think, how long has the gay movement, just the gay movement, gay, let's just put everybody in a very specific binary container. Gay men, gay women. How long has that movement been loud enough where they've had a political voice?
Not that long, only a few decades.
Maybe. How long has the transgender movement had any kind of sound that you've actually heard?
Yeah, like 0 years, like it's just starting.
Time is it? So you have an enormous group of people who have basically been in charge of everything for generations, who have had to deal with these annoying females voting, and then these gay people screaming, and then these trans things running around on television. This is annoying as hell. We need to make this stop. In the interim, in each of those containers, in the female container, in the gay male container, the gay female container, the gender container, the non-bi, in each of those containers, you have the same groups of people. This is what we have to remember. There are still cis people in the gay male container. There are still people in the trans movement who identify as male or female. Yes? So you still have the same learned behavior. Some people in those containers are still trying to take over because that's all they know. It's the only dialogue they have. You with me? So the infighting is going to happen until the day you leave the planet. That is literally the definition of humanity. If we didn't live in containers that didn't create debate, we'd all be with God. That's perfection. The only place that there is utter, and I love people that are searching for serenity. I'm searching for serenity. You're an idiot. You're an idiot and you're wasting time. You're wasting time. Meditation is not about serenity. Meditation is about balance. There is no such thing as peace. It doesn't exist. It's an idea. You with me? So if these are things you're spending your journey searching for, ultimate peace and ultimate serenity and pure kindness and absolution, you're on the road to nowhere. Try this. And it's just a suggestion. Try this. Just try it for 5 minutes. Try asking, instead of asking for what you want or what you think you need, try asking for guidance. You may not like what you hear. It may seem impossible to do. It may seem really rough. And it may feel like when you ask for guidance that something, whether you believe in science or nothing or trees or math or God or Jesus, whatever it is that you believe in, or nothing at all, that voice that has guided you here to this room today and has kept you alive for this long, that's called survival. That's an instinct, and you've got it because you're still on the planet. That thing is going to tell you what's next. And it may be, I need you to go into that group and tell them to knock it off.
Seriously, guys, knock it off. Seriously, because this person's going to come over and make you.
Knock it off.
Seriously, knock it off.
Knock it the hell
Everybody
off.
over there, just knock it the hell off.
Because that's the equation, isn't it? We can't all.
I hope so. I don't know.
Let me tell you something about you, my friend.
All right.
This idea that you have that everything is like going towards the, like, I feel like
we're on a meteor.
All of
towards
us
the
are,
Death
yeah,
Star.
you've got all of us in the box heading towards the orchestra pit.
Exactly.
Everybody's headed towards the freaking orchestra pit.
It's
And
nuts out
Bob and
there.
Frank are like, they're kicking hard. I feel like all of us are headed towards the orchestra pit, and we're still in the box, and Bob and Frank are
And our
kicking
legs
hard.
are taped together.
Our legs are taped together. But here's the thing. We can still hop off the mother freaking box. We can still hop if we just... I think we can still hop. That's all I'm saying.
Easter themed. Keep hopping.
Keep hopping.
Keep hopping.
Keep hopping.
Thank you all so much
Thanks,
for coming.
everybody.
Thank you, Alexandra,
I love
for
you.
writing this
I love you,
beautiful book.
friend. I love you.
I love you.
I
I
love
love
you.
you. I love you.
So much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.